Finally, the 49ers have added a good player who's younger than 32. What's up? Welcome to a very special edition of 49ers After Dark. That's the great Jesse Naylor. I'm Grant Conan. We have breaking news. The 49ers have traded their third-round pick to the Dallas Cowboys for veteran defensive tackle Osa Odigizua. He's only 27 years old. He's a good player. He signed for the next 3 years, and the Niners didn't give up their first or second-round pick to get him. Jesse, what are your initial thoughts on this move?
Yeah, listen, I would have preferred that they give up, one of those fourths if possible. But they're not going to get a better player, most likely, than Osa Odigizua in round 3. And right now, premium pass rushers out of the interior is really hard to come by. Now, he may not be like top of the heap when it comes to interior pass rushers, but he's pretty damn good. Yeah, you can look at his numbers and say, okay, he only had 3 sacks. That ranks 43rd out of interior defensive linemen. But really, it's about getting those pressures up the middle. And he ranks 6th in total pressures out of all interior defensive linemen last year. And there's one game that really stands out to me is to signify the importance of this. A couple years ago, Grant, you remember season starts against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Drake Jackson has 3 sacks that game. We all know by watching that game, those 3 sacks, the only 3 he had for the season, by the way, were because of Eric Armstead forcing pressures up the middle, causing the quarterback to scramble out, and then Drake Jackson got the cleanup sacks. That's exactly what Osa is going to bring to the table. He's going to get that up the middle pressure, allow guys like Nick Bosa to eat. And listen to Tom Brady. He talks about it all the time. The worst pressure is the pressure up the middle because it gets quarterbacks off their spots. It gets them those panicky feet. This is a home run move, in my opinion. You get a player who's in his prime. He's not a ton of money. I believe he's only like $16.5 million against the cap this year. That's fully guaranteed. And then $20 million against the cap the next 2 years. Now, maybe you have to rework that deal in a year or two. So be it. Third round pick. This is a home run move, in my opinion.
Yeah, he's an interesting player. You look at his numbers and you're like, all right, he's a pass rusher. He's 6'2", 280. So he's really winning with speed and quickness, and he's there to disrupt the quarterback. And 5 years in the league, 2 sacks, 4 sacks, 3 sacks, 4.5, 3.5. It's like, But what I think is interesting is the last 2 years, he's had 23 quarterback hits in each of the last 2 years. So 46 in the last 2. Those are big time numbers. And what that means is a guy who's getting 23 quarterback hits in a season, but only 3.5 sacks, means that the quarterback doesn't have to step up against the Cowboys because they didn't have Parsons last year. And even with Parsons there, I feel like a lot of times they didn't have an edge rush because he was playing other positions. So now I think the idea is if you pair him with Nick Bosa and maybe one other edge rusher who's not on the team yet, those quarterback hits turn into sacks. Now, I remember like back in 2018, you could tell that DeForest Buckner was about to break out. It was his second year in the league. He had 22 quarterback hits and 3 sacks. And Salo would talk about it like, we just got to get the quarterback to hold the ball like 1 beat longer. We got to get him to step up in the pocket. And then the next year he had 12 sacks. So maybe that could happen to Osa Odigizua if he's in a better situation.
Well, I mean, think about it, right? You got Bosa, you got Odigizua, you got Michael Williams. Those are your interior pass rushers on third down. And then you got Huff or, whoever it ends up being at the other edge. I mean, that's a formidable 4 right there that you can put after the quarterback on third downs and really cause some issues. And we know that the 49ers or Kyle Shanahan loves to only rush 4, especially in third down situations. So the more that they can do that, the more comfortable they're going to be, allow them to play that zone behind it. And OC definitely allows them to do that. So I'm really excited about this, man. I think this is a good move. The 49ers have been relatively quiet. I think everybody expected them or hoped that they would go get maybe a big time edge if they were going to address the defensive line. And I'll say this, when Kalia Davis wasn't brought back, it was like, all right, well, what are they going to do? They lost Elliott. They're probably not going to bring him back. And this right here is the answer. This is a major upgrade over both of those guys. And again, he's in his prime. He's not 33. So when the 49ers are truly trying to compete for a Super Bowl here in a couple years, hopefully, if they rebuild this properly, then he'll be a part of that.
What I find interesting about this is a couple things in addition, but he's kind of the player the Niners hope Mykel Williams will be one day. I mean, he's sort of an undersized defensive tackle who's a really good player and a pass rushing threat from that position. And I think it's interesting that the Niners took Mykel Williams with the 11th pick, and he may develop, but that's how important they saw that skill set being. And now they get it in a guy who's really developed it in his prime, and they get it for a third round pick. So I'm not dumping on Mykel Williams, but it's just interesting that they were able to get sort of the same type of player the year later. It wasn't that tough. Now they are going to be paying him a lot of money, but they can afford it. And $20 to $24 million a year for a defensive lineman is a whole different thing than $30 to $40 million a year. It's like you can afford a few of these kind of players. If you're paying Nick Bosa 30, and in a year his cap hit's going to be like $50 million a year. They're going to have to redo that or get rid of him. But now I'm getting off topic. What I do want to know is, do you think they're going to bring in another edge rusher, or do you think they're going to stick with Bryce Huff? Are they done with this D line?
At least in free agency, it does seem like it, right? Because they brought back Okawanu. It doesn't seem like Huff's going anywhere. So I would imagine that in free agency, they're probably done. Maybe they get another guy in the draft, or I'm sure they're going to have to add some depth. But I don't see any big time moves at edge. I mean, who's really out there to be had on edge at this point? Everybody's there. They're not gonna trade for Max Crosby. Like, that's not gonna happen. So I don't know that there's a big time move out there to be made. I like where they're at on the defensive line. I think this is a major upgrade. You get Bosa back. I like where they're at. So, but all of this is contingent on those rookies from last year. And the problem is that not only is it Mykel Williams, but you got Collins, who are going to be rehabbing injuries all through the offseason. And we know going from year one to year two, that is the biggest leap for players, because year one, they're worried about getting drafted. So a lot of guys are slimming down to run faster 40s and pass all the tests. And they're basically lab rats for a whole offseason as they're trying to get drafted. It's season two, or that offseason, where they get to really bulk up, get into their grown man bodies, and then they've got the system. They know what the NFL, what it takes to win in the NFL or play in the NFL. And so that's the season where you see a big leap. And unfortunately, for both of those guys, we may not see it because they've got to rehab these injuries. So this is a move that had to be made. They had to bring in somebody proven that is going to be effective. And this definitely checks that box.
Do you think they make this trade if Keon White hadn't gotten shot in the foot after?
I don't know,
Super Bowl?
man.
He was pretty good.
I will. He was good. It is interesting because it almost seems like the 49ers have three guys, at least body type wise, that are tweeners between White and Mykel Williams and now Odigizua. So this is interesting. We'll see how they deploy it. Maybe you're going to see a lot of 5 down linemen, honestly. Throw all three of those guys on the interior with Bosa and Huff, and that can be effective. Have Huff standing up potentially, but still rushing the passer. You might see a little bit of that. So
it didn't work out in Philly. What I like about this deal is that it shows self-awareness on the Niners' part, which they don't often show. It's like, you need a pass rusher.
Yeah.
You suck at drafting pass rushers. If you take one in round 3, he's going to be terrible. If you take one in round 1, he's probably going to be a run defender. So trade a third-round pick for a guy who is a proven pass rusher. He's not the best one in the world, but back-to-back seasons with 23 quarterback hits, there's some real, I wouldn't even say potential. Like, you just put him in a different situation and his numbers could explode. I love it. They didn't overpay for him. I don't know if it's a home run move, like you said. I would think a home run move would make them like maybe the first or second best team in their division. I still feel like, despite all of what they've done this offseason, they're still squarely where they started. Maybe I'm just a hater. I don't know. What do you think?
No, I don't think you're a hater. I think your thought process is right. I don't know that there is one individual player that they could have
True.
brought in that makes them the first place team in this
That's
division,
true.
right? It's got to be done in pieces. And so what I look at it is return on investment. Third round pick for what you got, I think that's a major home run. But the question is this, because there's another player out there, and it sounds like the Eagles are hot to trot over this guy. But you and Larry talked about him a couple weeks ago, or a week or so ago, is Jonathan Grenard. Jonathan Grenard is probably going to go for about the same. Would you rather have Odigizua or Jonathan Grenard for that third round pick?
Well, what's funny is I guess the Niners answer was Odigizua because I have
Yeah.
a source who told me about Jordan Addison, plugged in with the Vikings. We're going to talk about Addison again in a minute. Stay tuned.
Mm-hmm.
But he said that the Niners called about Greenard recently. So I guess
Mm.
they were going back and forth. And I wonder if they would try to trade for him as well. Like, I don't think Raheem Morris is going to want Bryce Huff. That's a hunch. And maybe he'll want to draft someone because he was successful drafting edge rushers last year in Atlanta. Maybe he'll feel he can do it this year. But and maybe they don't have enough money and draft picks to trade for Grenard. But again, if you get him, he's a proven player. Him, Odigizua, Nick Bosa, Michael Williams, that's a great D line.
Yeah, that would be
Yeah.
that would be a really good D
See,
line.
now we're talking about maybe you can beat Sam Darnold.
Yes. Yes,
You
that's
know?
true. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
The
And maybe
great
now you
Sam
can put
Darnold
him on
for
his
sure.
ass.
Yeah. No, it's true. I mean, if you got Grenard, I mean, that would be I don't
But
know how
it's
you
probably an
wouldn't give
either
the
or
offseason like an
situation.
A. I
They don't
think
have the pick
so.
together.
I think a third round pick for both is about right, based off of what. So maybe they can get Grenard for a fourth only because he's got to have a rework of his deal, and maybe that's enough to drive the price down. I don't know, but if you could get both, yes, that would be ideal for sure. But if it's an either or, I don't know, man. I love Jonathan Grenard. I think he's a hell of a player. But I do think having a premium pass rusher up the middle is very important in this league. And that's something that the 49ers haven't had for a while. So
It seems pretty clear that Raheem Morris wanted that. They went after John Franklin Myers, didn't get him, and then the
mhm.
plan B was Odigizua. So, which my question is, what does that mean for the other edge spot? Like, what does that mean for Michael Williams? Does that mean that Raheem Morris sees Michael as an edge, or does he see him as another interior guy, and they're going to get an edge? Does he like Bryce Huff? I guess we'll find out. We really know nothing about the defense yet. Interesting to talk
I'm
to Raheem Morris.
I know I'm curious too. I'm actually let me look at something just real quick. So I'm looking at what they did. See, all right. And this is why I think that this could work and all three could play. Like I said, they could go five linemen essentially, because they did have a nose tackle, two defensive ends, and then essentially two linebackers rushing the passer. Right now, Bosa obviously prefers to play with his hand in the dirt. Doesn't matter whether you stand up or hand in the dirt. It's same difference really. Um, you can make it work. We see it in Philadelphia all the time. They deploy this same thing. A
Mhm.
lot of times they have a wide nine guy with his hand in the dirt, and then they have a stand up guy opposite of him.
Mhm.
So, is Huff, like you said, maybe Huff's not comfortable in that role, and so they have to make a change.
Right.
But I really think that you could play Michael, Collins, and Odigizua, boom, 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 all up the middle, and then have Bosa on the outside, and then another guy as well. So,
Yeah, I can see it. Tyler Barden says kind of a 1-year deal. He has no guaranteed money after this year. They can cut him if he's ass.
well, that is true, but also you don't spend a third round pick to cut a guy after 1 year because he's ass. He better pan
Well,
out for more than 1 year. So,
yeah. And again, he's 27. I like it. He didn't come off a
yeah.
year where he played 8 games and had a hamstring injury and a clavicle. He played 17. I like this move. Nate Flores says, I like this move. Besides Fred, Kyle and John have been really bad with the third round picks recently. Yeah, at least they're not going to spend this on a linebacker who should have been drafted in round 6.
Yeah, absolutely. One more point. You talked about the QB hits. One of those years was with Parsons, and one of them
Yep,
was without, and his production didn't
correct.
change. And I think that's got to be noted as well.
That's a great point. Completely agree. Jason Lutz says 27. Everyone knows you got to be 30 plus to play in SF. Maybe not on the defense. SRT Unk 415 says meh move in my opinion. Kind of seems more like expensive Kalia Davis. We've played the Cowboys a ton, and I've never seen or heard his name called during those games.
Oh, really? Okay.
I
I don't
give it a
know.
B plus. Meth feels like a C. He's a good player, man. Kalia Davis, how many sacks did he have last year? Half a sack? No sacks?
Yeah,
No
I
sacks
don't.
or half a sack?
Kalia Davis had 1 sack.
That's what I'm saying. Like this guy could give you 7 sacks, which I don't know that anyone on the Seahawks had more than 7 sacks last year. If you could get 7 sacks and 20 quarterback hits from Oso Odigizua, that's worth the money and the pick.
Kalia Davis ranked 109th in total pressures, and Odigizua ranked 6th out of interior defensive linemen. So I don't know that that's just a mess, slight upgrade over Kalia. I like Kalia Davis, and I hope that they were going to bring him back, but this is a massive upgrade over Kalia Davis.
Yeah, I mean the Niners have never drafted an interior defensive, pass rusher as good as
Mhm.
this guy. Never
Yeah.
have they? I mean, since John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan have been here,
No, no. And in
no,
fact, I mean,
they tried.
they try well, yeah, they tried, but they also tried to they tried to bring one in through free agency, and that didn't work out either. So Javon Hargrave.
Denial Salam says, just tuned in, but my question for offense is, can Purdy hit Evans on a go or post? Pronounced Dan Ayel. Dan Ayel. We're going to get to that in a minute. So, Dan Ayel, stay tuned. We're going to get to the Mike Evans question. Ace Trey 84 says, I'd rather give, and thank you for telling me how to pronounce your name, because today is all about pronunciation. Am I saying Odigizua correctly? I feel like there's some
You are.
controversy on how exactly to
No, you're
pronounce his
right.
name.
Odigizua. What's crazy, this is what I will say, is you know how to say Odigizua, but you called Jonathan Grenard a couple weeks ago Greenard. So I don't know how you mix that one up, but you get this one right.
You just said
I feel
Greenard,
like
and I
it
was
should
like,
have
damn,
been
I've been calling him Greenard for years, dude. I've been making an asshole of myself. It's Greenard. And I tried just to start saying it like I hadn't been saying Greenard. I'm saying
yeah,
Greenard.
yeah,
I call him
exactly.
Greenard. I like how Coach just adds S's at the end of everyone's name. George
Oh,
Kills.
coach just S's and mixes names and that, but that's what makes Coach Coach. That's why you love him.
Ace Trey says, I'd rather give up 2 number 1 picks for Philly Jalen Carter. They
Oh
suck with their
yes.
first 2 picks every year.
Listen.
Jalen Carter is a little scary, man. I mean,
Yes.
he has his past, and the Eagles are a really smart organization, and they know him very well. And you got to wonder. I mean, last time the Niners bet against the Eagles, they signed Javon Hargrave, and the Eagles were right, and the Niners were wrong. I like Jalen Carter a lot, but it gives you pause. And this is cheaper, less risky.
Yeah, it is. Trust me though. If it was Max Crosby for 2 firsts or Carter for 2 firsts, give me Carter easily.
I mean, they could still go get Max Crosby, put together a pretty good D line. Tyler Barden says they usually have 10 D linemen on the roster. Do they even have that right now? I imagine they signed more, only 6 draft picks, a lot more needs. Yeah, wait for Max
Yeah, they're
Crosby.
going to sign more, but they're not. It's not going to be like a big time guy. I wouldn't imagine. I hope it
It'll be Joey
is.
Bosa. Jason Lett
I'm going
says
to think about that.
free agency has opened their options in the draft. Wide receiver and DT are no longer immediate needs. Now they can go more BPA or reach for that day 3 pick in round 1. That's what they like to do. They can absolutely do that. Nick says, is Drake Jackson still on this team? And if so, why? No, he just got an extension with Washington,
Washington,
which,
yeah.
God love Adam Peters for believing in him, but man, it's been 5 years.
Yeah.
Lamont says, Grant, who's your guest co-host NSYNC? Guy Fieri.
Guy Fieri. Guy Fieri.
Peter says, why hasn't Raheem Morris spoken? Because the last few years, the Niners haven't had their defensive coordinator talk to the media for the first time until OTAs. You can go back and check it. It's been their thing. It annoys me. But guys, there's just because, yes, the Niners traded for Osa Odigizua, but there's been bigger news today. Bigger news.
Oh.
Jake Tonjes, 2 years, $8 million, 5.5 guaranteed. I love that they won't let any other team have Jake Tonjes because they know that he's good, but at the same time, they won't let him play because they don't want him to shine. I don't understand, man, but all I know is that he was in Cabo, and all of a sudden now he's a rich man. It's a smart move. I don't know if there's some type of ritual that they have to do in Cabo to make you a made man, but he's a made man. What do you think of this move, and why is it the best?
I'll tell you what, man. There's nobody on the roster that Grant loves more than a backup tight end who has good hands. I mean, that's Ross Dwelly. And yeah, exactly. I mean,
it's hella slow.
I actually I actually like between this move and the Wallace re-signing, I actually love both of those moves. Again, these aren't like the big moves where it's like, oh my gosh, these are major game changers, but you have to have guys that are a part of your team that make up the back end of the roster. And both of those guys showed a lot of promise. They're definitely worth bringing back. You're not going to break the bank for them. I love that he's back with this team. And frankly, he's a hell of a lot better than the player that they signed that was supposed to take his spot last year, anyways. So, yes, absolutely love Tonjes. And he's a guy that can fill in and play that at least pass catcher role for Kittle until Kittle's back. And we know he can fill in admirably. We know that he has some rapport with both of these quarterbacks. So, I think it was a no brainer to bring him back. And certainly you don't want him playing, I don't know, in a 3 tight end set for a rival. That's for sure. So, yeah, I think this was a really, really good move. I like Jake Tonjes a lot.
Yeah, if you don't sign Jake Tonjes, he's going to the freaking Seahawks. You know that right now, Brian Fleury. He's going there.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
he's a good player. Like, I think you've seen around the league teams with 2 tight ends, 3 tight ends. You don't have to have 3 all pros to really I mean, the Niners were getting diced up by the Rams tight ends. I don't even know who the Davis Allen, some guys you've never freaking heard of. I like it a lot. I just wish he's gonna get used too. Kittle won't be there week 1. Tonja's gonna play. When he starts and Kittle isn't out there, it seems like Kyle calls plays for him. He's often the first read on in the progression. He produces, and then Kittle comes back and he never plays. So I like now that he's actually in the Cabo crew and he's getting paid and he's going to be here for 2 years. I'd like Kyle to spend some time this offseason and think of a way to use Kittle and Tonjes together, if possible. Together.
Simpatico.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm also worried about Kittle. I've been real worried about like looking into
Yeah.
Mike Evans and how well, we'll get into it in a little bit. I don't want to go there yet. We're gonna get into the Mike Evans thing in a minute. But Jake Tonjes, great time. Hey, he's back. Yes.
No, yeah, the Jake Tonjes signing was a good one
Exciting.
for sure. I think you're right. I mean, I would love to see them go 2 tight ends more often, but that's just never going to happen with Juszczyk still on this team. He gets way too much burn for whatever reason. But we know that Jake Tonjes will fill in at the early part of the season, at least probably I would imagine the first 4 games. Even if George Kittle's like on track to being healthy or might play week 1, the 49ers traditionally will start you on that 4-week injured reserve and then kind of bring you off the pup list as the season progresses. So I would imagine at least that happens, and Jake Tonjes is going to be needed. So yeah, absolutely. I fell in love with
All
him
I know,
immediately against Seattle week 1 last year, right?
I mean, that was the Niners Super Bowl, right? All we hear is that the Niners beat the Seahawks week 1, so that means that the Niners
They did.
can beat them, and maybe they're the best team in the league. Well, they don't win that game without Jake Tonjes. So,
Ipso facto, Super Bowl champs, 49ers, they won week 1 against
ipso
Seattle.
facto. Look, all I know is that the dude went to Cabo, and that means he's in the good graces of the organization, and the use checks are probably threatened because they didn't put him in their little TikTok extravaganza. They put Mac Jones in there 800 times, but no Jake Tonjes. They're nervous. They're shaking in their boots because they see he could play. He could play fullback too. He can do it all. He's a Swiss Army knife. So watch out.
Maybe Jake Tonjes isn't a big drinker, and so he didn't make the highlight reel, you know?
He's just a baller. Okay.
Yeah.
Josh Wyatt says, is this a pass rusher? 4.5 sacks career high. Any DT will get quarterback hits when pass rushers force the quarterback to step up. 24 million is Pro Bowl guard money. Fair question. Fair question. I guess we'll see. I think 23 quarterback hits back-to-back years is big time. I don't know how many guys do that, but we'll see. I mean, does Eric Armstead, did he ever do that in his life? I don't think so.
Yeah, listen,
didn't.
I don't think there's not many interior defensive linemen that get a lot of sacks. I mean, you get your few that exist in the league, but really it's about forcing a quarterback
Pressure.
off the spot, and he does that in spades. I mean, top 6 in the NFL. I talked about it
Armstead
earlier.
has
Maybe you weren't here.
8 quarterback hits last year. Armstead. I'm just saying.
Well, that's what and so,
Yeah,
but that's what I'm
saying.
saying. You know, early on, I was talking about week 1 against the Steelers with Drake Jackson getting 3 cleanup sacks because Eric Armstead basically forced the quarterback into his lap. That's exactly what you want. Yeah, Bosa, his sack numbers will go up because of this, and whoever's opposite of him, their sack numbers. You watch Bosa, if he plays all year, and I know that's a big if, he's going to have a much more productive season from a sack perspective because of this signing. Much more productive.
Lamont 757 says, "How you feeling about doing business with the Ravens?" I don't have a problem doing. I don't have a problem with them. If I were, my take is, I want to do business with the Raiders because they're hella stupid.
Mm-hmm.
Hella stupid. Yo, why are you announcing the trade? What are you doing? Why don't you wait for the freaking physical? You announced it. How excited? What are you, bunch of rookies and amateurs? It's not official yet. Shut the fuck up. You announced it. Stupid. Stupid.
Yeah, listen, the Ravens did nothing wrong. I was surprised though that they backed out of it, and seemingly because they had cold feet. The Ravens are a franchise that is one of the model franchises in the NFL, and you would expect something like this from maybe the Raiders or a bad organization. This does put a bad taste in it. They're not going to get penalized by the league, but I'm telling you, there are agents around the league that are going to basically kibosh their players from going to the Ravens for at least one offseason, and then teams are going to not really want to trade at them for one offseason. This will hurt the Ravens for an offseason, and then everybody will get over it and they'll be fine next offseason. But
yeah. Yeah. But screwing over the Raiders was just too good of an opportunity to pass up. Sorry. And it's Brady too. It kills me because it's such a like poorly kept secret that there was a personal beef between Max Crosby and Brady. And Crosby didn't appreciate them shutting him down, and Brady being on that freaking boat with Leonardo DiCaprio on New Year's Eve while the Raiders were busy tanking. And he's like, "You're telling me like not to play? I'm more of a Raider than you are." And Brady's like pushing him out, not only because it's the best thing for the business and the football team, because it's personal between him. And he was so excited to tell people, "I did it. I traded him. I got 2 first-round picks." No, you didn't. Ha ha. I'm sorry. He's really annoying me. Tom Brady, the executive, trying to run this team remotely from God knows where while he does 18 different things. It's like every time it blows up in his face, I'm like, well, this is why you should be like concentrating on this job if you really want to do it, because you're making an ass out of yourself. I'm on the Ravens side.
Yeah. Yeah, you're absolutely right about that. And there's nothing that the Ravens can say. The worst kept secret in the league is immediately as soon as that trade got kiboshed, everybody with half a brain cell was like, "Oh, so Trey Hendrickson's going to go there." Like that's a no-brainer. And that's exactly what happened.
We spent all this money thinking that we didn't have to pay. That's your problem.
Yeah, not our problem.
You shouldn't have done that. That was dumb. And you know what? That's why you're the Raiders and we're the Ravens.
Right.
Sorry. That's how I feel. Big Tone says, release Farrell, sign is it Kolar or Kohler?
Kohler. I thought he already signed somewhere, though. Am I tripping? I thought he already signed somewhere.
I hope we never have to talk about him. I can't pronounce his name. Shyla209 says, with all the moves in free agency, I hope that they can use the first-round pick for an offensive tackle. The Niners need to beef up the O-line to protect Brock better. Hey, from your lips to God's ears, I think that the Niners have actually put themselves in a position that they could take an offensive lineman in round 1 this year. But, of course, they're going to go linebacker. Although that's a big need. But anything but an offensive lineman. Anything but an offensive lineman. T-Guns80 says, I love this channel. Thank you, T-Guns. Joe C says, big ups Jesse for his 90s new metal dad glow up looking good, King.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. Although every show I go on, there's controversy with my hair. I guess on camera it looks like I bleach it, but it's gray. My hair's gray.
It's gray.
I don't know how to fix it. This is my hair color. I don't know what to do.
I did an instant reaction today without my hat on, and people were like, "Wash your fucking hair." I'm like, "I just got out of the shower." They're like, "Well, then dry your hair." I'm like, okay. Nick Curran says, "Are we ever going to use Jordan James?" Only if they absolutely have to. But they haven't gotten a running back, so maybe the answer is yes. I want to go wide receiver. So we talked about Jonathan Grenard and how the Niners had made a call on him recently. Okay, I have a source. And I mentioned that the Niners were interested in Jordan Addison. They'd called on him like really as soon as the season ended. Well, according to my source, they called on him again recently. They are still interested in Jordan Addison. And this is post Mike Evans signing. So the teams that are in the NFC that are interested in Addison are hold on. The 49ers, the Eagles, and the Cowboys. And it sounds like the Vikings want a first round pick for Addison, which is a lot. It seems like if the Niners are still interested in Addison, that means that they might be interested in moving on from Ricky Pearsall. Maybe they're not keen on having him start next to Mike Evans. Would you give up a first round pick for Jordan Addison? I mean, it's late first. What do you think?
Absolutely not. No, no, no. That's crazy. Talk about I look at Addison and I figured, okay, it's a player you have to pay. He's had some off the field issues. Maybe you get a fourth that can escalate up to a third depending on how he does. But a first round pick, I mean,
Well,
that's
to
like
be
the
look,
49ers wanting
from what I'm
Mac
hearing, that's what
Jones
they're
first round
asking
pick.
for. It's also what the Niners are asking for with Mac Jones. It doesn't mean
Yeah.
that's what they would necessarily settle for, but they're asking for a first for Grenard and Addison, which is why they may not get moved.
I no. They're not getting a first for either one of those guys. So that's not gonna happen.
I will say though, if you put Addison next to Evan, like Addison is better than Pearsall. I like Pearsall, but
He
Addison's better.
is, but for a first,
It's a
no.
late first. And again, what are you gonna do with the first? Who are you gonna take? A wide
Listen,
receiver?
I understand the premise of, hey, they don't draft well in the first, so trade it anyways. I'm fine with that thought process,
Yeah.
but not for Jordan Addison. That would be that's a major overpay. You cannot there's no way. They trade a first for that. Now, listen, if they want to trade Ricky as a part of this and give up a fourth, sure. I'm in. Like let's start talking. I'm good with that.
He just turned 24 in January.
Mhm.
Last year, he played 14 games. I guess he was suspended for a few games. He had
He's 2 years younger than Ricky Pearsall, which is crazy, man. That's how old Ricky is.
600 yards and 3 touchdowns last year, but his quarterback sucked. The year before, he
Yeah.
had 875 and 9. The year before that, 910, and he's 24. I'll be
He,
I'd be
he
tempted. Maybe not for the first, but
oh,
Ricky in a second.
I'm not doing a sec. No way. No way. Let another team. I just even if he was like more productive than that, Grant, and he is a good player. Don't get me wrong. He's a very, very good player, but he's not a number
No,
one in this league. And he does have some weird things that happen in the offseason. Like
it's true.
you can't take a risk on that for
There
a
was just
first or
something
second
happened
round
a few
pick.
weeks ago, right? Or was it
Right.
months?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think everything was dropped, but it's like another one. Really? Again, here we go again.
Yeah.
That's the thing about that third round pick is I feel like that's the sweet spot for a lot of players that are available, whether it's an Addison or Grenard or, in this case, they went with the defensive tackle. Like I feel like this was the move, this was the trade, and they're probably done with getting guys
I
as
just
far as
think that
trades
the
go.
Niners are not super high on Ricky Pearsall. Even Larry said it. Larry says he has a source that says the Niners are looking to trade Renardo Green and Ricky Pearsall. And when I hear from my source that the Niners are calling on Jordan Addison, even after signing Mike Evans, it makes me feel like they're looking for another starting Z. And I get it because Mike Evans is a big question mark too. I mean, if your starting wide receivers are Mike Evans and Ricky Pearsall by week 4, your starting wide receivers could be Demarcus Robinson and Jordan Watkins. So the one thing, at least with Jordan Addison, is he's available and he's young and he seems pretty durable. The reason the Niners want guys on rookie deals isn't necessarily because they want young players. They just want cheap players. And this guy won't be cheap because they'll have to give him an extension. But he is good. He is good. And if you don't trade your first round pick, you better. The last time you drafted at the end of round 1, you took Ricky Pearsall, who's not as good as Jordan Addison. I'm just saying. But hey, if you tell me that the Niners are going to take the best offensive tackle available in round 1, I would say don't trade for Jordan Addison. If they're going to do that, then love it. I love it. But if they're just going to stay there and draft Omar Cooper Jr., I'm like, man, if you take him, he's going to suck. That's how I feel.
I'll listen. I'll take Vega loan as well.
I would,
Best
I would
guard.
take him
I'll take
rather
him.
than trade for Addison for sure.
Yeah. So, and we don't know. The 49ers likely are not going to take an offensive lineman. That probably is true. Like I said, if it's Addison, I would be so disappointed. The Vikings cannot be that. Like, okay, one of two things is happening. If you're asking for a first round pick for Addison, either you truly don't want to trade him, but it's like, well, if somebody's willing to massively overpay, we'll say yes. Either that's the thing, or they're like the 49ers and they just overvalue the hell out of their players. And it's like, that's nobody's taking Addison for a first. Absolutely nobody.
That's true. Is it fair to say that Addison is the player the Niners want Pearsall to be?
Yeah, probably. Yeah,
And
I
he's
would
younger
say
than
so.
Pearsall.
He's 2 years younger than Pearsall.
See,
year and a
okay,
half or so.
okay. So would you be calling them up and be like, look, first round pick for Jordan Addison is ridiculous, but we keep calling you. We have Ricky Pearsall. We could trade you Ricky for Jordan, acknowledging that Jordan is better, and we will throw in, we don't have a third anymore. We will throw in 3 fourths. They're all right next to each other.
They draft decent in the 4th round, so I don't know if we want to do that. Yeah.
If they could find a way to get Jordan Addison without giving up a first, I'd be interested because I do feel like he's good as hell. And I really am nervous about Mike Evans. I know a lot of people feel like, hey, it was one bad year. He's been so consistent his whole year, his whole career. He's going to bounce back on the Niners at 33. Yeah, for sure. And George Kittle will too.
We'll
see. We're going to talk about Mike Evans in a minute.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Cool. I'm glad we're going to talk about Mike Evans.
We'll talk about Mike Evans.
I got to know your thoughts. All right.
Justin says, call me crazy. I want a wide receiver in the first 2 rounds.
Well, there you go.
There you go. Yeah, I mean, I still think they need something at that position. Someone young who's not Ricky. In addition to Ricky. Lamont 757 says, what teams asked about Fred? What would it have taken? What do you think?
It would have taken a first, and the Giants, we know, were asking about him, and there were rumored to be other teams. I have no idea who they were.
That was a weird report. It's either that Raheem Morris doesn't want the best middle linebacker and fullback in the NFL, or Fred Warner didn't want to be here anymore, and the Niners, and no one has said it.
I mean,
but he signed. He's not going anywhere.
No, he's not going anywhere, and it was always highly unlikely. I know that here's the thing. Is it weird that teams called about Fred Warner? Absolutely not. Is it weird that it got out and continued to get out? Yes. That tells me that there was something behind the scenes, whether it was Fred saying, hey, shot me. Something is up there, because calling about a player is one thing, but it getting out repeatedly tells me that was probably the player's agent leaking that. And why would he do that if his player was super happy with the 49ers? I don't know.
Hakeem the Dream says Brian Thomas Jr. for a 2nd round pick.
I'd rather that than a 1st round pick on Addison. I'll tell you that.
Brian Thomas Jr. is interesting because he balled out with Mac Jones. He did.
Good. Yeah.
Am I wrong? He couldn't catch anything last year.
No.
Who do you think would be cheaper to get in terms of draft capital, him or Addison?
I think it'd be about the same. Honestly, I think it'd be close.
But isn't Brian Thomas Jr. like an X?
Yeah, I mean, they're definitely different skill sets, but
yeah. Sonny says, with these signings and trades, do you think they won't go wide receiver or defensive tackle in the 1st round? And if not, where do they go? Also, Jesse, the looks master, totally frame mogging Grant.
What is frame mogging? I don't even what is happening with these? I don't know what all this means, but listen, I wouldn't put anything past the 49ers. I highly doubt they go defensive tackle now. Wide receiver is certainly not off the table. Mike Evans, to me, doesn't take wide receiver off the table.
It's also possible the Niners keep Trent Williams but don't extend him, have him play out his contract. They draft an offensive tackle and try to develop him, quote unquote, for next year. They could do that. I don't know. Nick H says Crosby didn't pass a physical. Perfect fit. Yup. Craig Frankie says, I heard that Jags are shopping BTJ for a 2nd. Yeah, man, I wonder if Mac Jones could put in a good word for him. Chris Bond says, of the Niners drafted 2023 to 2025, which are the most likely to establish themselves in 2026? Which are busted draft picks?
You better hope it's Michael Williams and Ricky Pearsall that established themselves. Why is speaking of draft picks around that time, uh Renardo Green, I thought he was going to get traded. I heard that from a lot of different people.
I
I
know.
wonder why he's still on this team.
I know. Well, the Niners haven't gotten anyone to replace him. It'll be interesting. Dave Barclay says, "Look at that office. You guys make my day better." What's up, Dave?
What's up, Dave?
Trade Lombardi to the Jets. All right, we're going to talk about Mike Evans next, but first, want to shout out the our sponsor for the week, Mint Mobile. I don't know about you, but I like keeping my money where I can see it. Unfortunately, traditional big wireless carriers also seem to like keeping my money too. After years of overpaying for wireless, I finally got fed up with crazy high wireless bills, bogus fees, and free perks that actually cost more in the long run and switched to Mint Mobile. Check out your credit card statement this month. I bet it's possible you're spending more in a month than you would be spending in a year for Mint Mobile. Plans for Mint Mobile start at $15 a month. All plans come with high-speed data and unlimited talk and text delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. Bring your own phone and number, activate with eSIM in minutes, and start saving immediately. No long-term contracts, no hassle. This is a great way to save $100 a month, $200 a month, $300 a month. Ditch overpriced wireless and get 3 months of premium wireless service from Mint Mobile for $15 a month. Upfront payment of $45 for a 3-month 5 GB plan required. A new customer offer for the first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See Mint Mobile for details. All right, it's Mike Evans time. It's a 3-year deal. What is it? A 3-year deal, but it's really a 1-year
Yeah.
deal for like 14,
Yeah.
$16 million. He
Yeah.
really didn't have much leverage because he didn't play well last year. He's a future Hall of Famer who was like the model of consistency. And then last year happened where he played 8 games and he caught 30 passes and he just was not really a factor. But now he's on the 49ers and he's got a great training staff and he definitely doesn't have an issue with the substation. So what do you think, man? It's a low risk move financially, but it is a big
Yeah.
investment in the sense that he's supposed to be the go-to guy in the offense. And if he doesn't really, if he can't do it, I don't know where they turn. So what do you think?
Yeah. First of all, I live in Tampa. I've been here for about 7 years now. I can tell you that Mike Evans is like a staple of the community here. Um, Tampa Bay Buccaneer fans absolutely love Mike Evans, but they also were fine with him leaving at this stage in his career, and they probably should be. So I like that he brings the leadership. I like that Hall of Fame player, most likely. I think he's entering top 10 receiver of all time territory. I think he's right on the edge there personally. Hell of a career. But it's not just the injury, Grant. I think people are looking at Mike Evans in the wrong way, in the sense that they say if healthy, if healthy, if healthy, which is a question mark in itself. But let's assume he is healthy. You look at his last 2 years, he's had a significant drop off in his per reception averages. In fact, back to back years, he had his worst years of his career in his yards per reception. I think he was at 13.6 2 years ago, which was the worst of his career by point 0.2. His career average is 15.1, and last year he was at like 12.3. Even if he had played 17 games, Grant, last year he would only had like 782 yards. That's not good. And they had to force feed him the ball down the stretch 2 years ago to get over 1,000 yards. He barely got it at 1,004. So this is not the Mike Evans that people think that he is. He's clearly declining. Now, the question is even with that decline, can he still help the team? Yes, certainly. He's going to be a red zone threat. I think a lot of people are looking at it much like the Devontae Adams signing with the Los Angeles Rams. I don't think he's quite that either. I mean, Devontae Adams was coming off of a hell of a year the year prior. Devontae Adams showed no signs of slowing down. I do think I could see a season where maybe it's like 700 yards and 10 touchdowns. And at that point, it's definitely worth it. They do need a red zone threat. Kyle Shanahan in his career has been up and down in the red zone. It took Christian McCaffrey coming to this team to kind of save them in the red zone a couple years back. Maybe Mike Evans can be that for them this year. My issue with it, though, is that when I look at a Mike Evans signing, I say that's a guy that should go to a team that is set to potentially win a Super Bowl this year. I look at the Bills, I look at the Ravens, I look at, the Rams, the Seahawks, those types of teams. The 49ers timeline and Mike Evans timeline do not match up. So that's the biggest issue I have. And for a team that already struggles to develop young players, you are keeping other young players, receivers off the field because Mike Evans is going to take those snaps. Where's the development? Mike Evans is not going to be here in 2 to 3 years when you're trying to actually win a Super Bowl, when it's possible again, maybe if you've done everything right up to that point. So for me, that's why I'm not a big fan of the signing overall.
I have some predictions. I don't think Mike Evans is going to be on this team next year. I don't think this is going to work. Here's for my website, si.com/NFL/49ers, 49ers on SI. One of my writers, Parker Hurley, does a great job. He wrote an article this morning, and it's called "The Hidden Risk of the Niners Signing Mike Evans." And he writes, most receivers do not come back from down years that are injury infested at his age. In fact, none of the past 10 receivers to post 1,000 yards at age 33 or older had fewer than 700 yards in the season prior to that. Only 3 players had fewer than 1,000 yards. If players are going to produce at that age in the NFL, they're going to have consistency. And once it falls off, even for 1 year, it does not come back. You have to go back to 2007 to find the last time a receiver posted 1,000 yards or more after posting less than 500 yards in his age 32 season, which is what Mike Evans just did. That was Bobby Ingram. He had 290 yards for the Seattle Seahawks in 2006, and then at the age of 33 had 1,100 yards. That was at 34. No one else in the past 20 years has come back at that freaking age. I mean, I think what some people say is, oh, he had some, bad luck last year, and now that's behind him. I look at it as his body broke down. It happens to every athlete eventually, and it happens to wide receivers in like a very sudden, dramatic way most of the time. I think it happened to him. I guess we'll see.
Well, I think a lot of people point to the Anquan Bolden move that the 49ers made. And Bolden was a hell of a signing. There's no doubt about that. But Anquan Bolden, even though his yards were down in Baltimore the 2 years prior, his yards per reception were up the 2 years prior. He was still a very effective player on a per catch basis.
Super Bowl MVP right before the Niners got him.
Yes. So that is not what
it was Flacco, but it should have been Bolden.
Right. But that is not the 2 seasons that Mike Evans is coming off of. Yes, he can't, like I said, you get inside the 5, he's certainly a threat there, and maybe that's where the production is going to come. But Mike Evans also, let's look at how he's won in his career. Yes, he's a big body guy, but he doesn't play like Devontae Adams has traditionally, where he just squares up and catch short passes and goes over the middle. He takes the top off of defenses. That's how he's won. Once you lose a step, if that's how you won, you're not going to be able to win that way anymore. And that's not Brock Purdy's game anyways, throwing outside the numbers to guys going down the field. So we'll see how it goes. I hope that it works out well. I tend to agree with you. I think he's going to probably be here for 1 year. And I think that people are going to be overall disappointed if they're expecting 1,000-yard Mike Evans. I don't think it's going to happen.
He's going to be effective at the back pylon fade and from the 2-yard line. And he'll be effective running back shoulder fades while he's healthy. But he's replacing Juwan Jennings.
Yeah.
Juwan Jennings loves the dirty work of being a wide receiver. He loves to block. You think Mike Evans wants to really block at 33 years old in the twilight of his career? Juwan Jennings loves going over the middle and catching the ball while getting hit by 3 dudes and staying on his feet and getting yards after contact. He can do that stuff. He makes a living doing that stuff. Does Mike Evans really want to do that now when he didn't really have to do that? He didn't have to make his money that way. He made his money on the perimeter, one-on-one, mossing people. Now he's going to be Juwan Jennings. I'm going to say something radical. Juwan Jennings is a better player than Mike Evans right now. And he's going to get more money. He's more expensive. But he's younger. He's more durable. And Mike Evans is going to have to play his ass off to outproduce Juwan Jennings this year. He's going to have to stay healthy. Jennings had 9 touchdowns last year. Evans had 3. We'll see. I'm not saying they should have brought back Jennings. I don't think they should have brought back Jennings, but I'm just saying.
There's the take floating out there, and this is the most asinine take that I have seen, that this version of Mike Evans is better than the 2023 version of Ayuk. What? That's blasphemy. Absolute blasphemy. Not even close. It's not. This shouldn't even be a debate. No.
Ayuk was like a top 5 wide receiver that season.
That's what I'm saying. Mike Evans at this stage of his career is not near as good as
I'll
2023
say something
Ayuk.
else.
That's
Not only was 2023 Ayuk better than 2026 Mike Evans, 2023 Ayuk was better than 2023 Mike Evans.
yeah,
He was.
you're
And
no,
every
you're right
Niner
about
fan
that.
said it at the time, and now Niner fans are switching up.
Yeah, and he's not the best he's not the best run blocker, even though he's a big guy. He never has been the best. I mean, he's had a couple years where he's been decent, but he's not the best run blocker overall.
Why do you think the Niners haven't cut Ayuk yet? Is it
Because they're being
pettiness?
petty. There's
General
no,
pettiness?
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, this is to me, this is 100%. They know that somebody's gonna sign them, and they're being haters. I mean, I don't know how else to put it. You took listen, I get it. He was a pain in the butt. I'm sure he was. I'm not absolving him of all blame, but even if you think that it was all Ayuk's fault, at this point, holding him hostage and not you know you're gonna cut him, not doing it is it's
It's because they're
totally to
afraid he's going to end up in Washington and play well and make them look stupid. Because what they haven't said what happened, but what they're
yeah.
insinuating is that he didn't follow their rehab program, didn't rehab at all, messed up his knee, and is never going to be the same. When it's possible, he just chose not to rehab at the facility like a lot of players have chosen. The Niners used that to take his guarantees away because they didn't want to pay him other than Kyle Shanahan. And he left. That's possible. Which one do you think is more likely?
Listen, I've said it before and I'll repeat it. Um, take this with a grain of salt. I'm not claiming to be an insider or any of that. I'm just telling you what I heard, and I've heard it for months. The story hasn't changed from where I heard it from. Brandon Ayuk did not rehab with the 49ers because he didn't trust that medical staff. He rehabbed on his own, much like many players have. Now, where he screwed up is he didn't show up for his check ins, and that's where the 49ers got upset. However, that being said, he thought he was ready week 1. He was pushing to play week 1. He certainly was ready by week 4. At some point, it was obvious the 49ers weren't going to play him. They were probably trying to shop him or whatever before he took a snap, worried he would get injured again. And at that point, he left the team and was unwilling to come back, stopped returning calls because he had already lost his guaranteed money. He wanted to play week 1. He certainly wanted to play week 4 or week 5, I guess, after the pup list. 49ers weren't playing him, and he was mad about it. So he dipped, and that was that. That's what I heard. So however you want to place the blame, if that is a true story, this rumor out there that his knee's degenerative and he's never going to play again, it's absolute BS. He is going to play again, and if he's effective, it's going to look really, really bad.
Right. And that's why I feel like the fact that they haven't released him kind of makes me think that they're nervous about where they don't want him to just go to Washington. Because if they hold him, then Washington could decide, well, we're not going to wait. Well, let's go sign Jawan Jennings instead. And maybe Brandon Ayuk's
Yeah.
market maybe ends up on a bad team. I mean, if they really felt his knee was beyond repair, then they'd probably cut him an hour ago, 5 hours ago, and they wouldn't give a shit about where he ends up
Mm-hmm.
because he's not going to end up anywhere. Any team's going to bring him in and find out what the Niners already know. But if the knee's good, then it would make sense for the Niners to hold on to him just to make sure that he doesn't go somewhere where he could make you look stupid.
Yeah, I
Interesting.
mean, listen, and I'm not I know that Brandon Ayuk was certainly a sucker in all of this. Like he didn't play his cards right. I think it was a mistake on his end. It was a mistake on both ends. I never look at a situation when there's like a divorce or a separation and it's this drastic. Everybody has something that they were at fault for. The 49ers were at fault in some capacity. Brandon Ayuk was at fault in some capacity. You can argue who was more at fault. That's fine. But they both are culpable here. Here at this point, you're divorced. The marriage is over. You've taken the money back. You're going to cut him. Just let him go, man. Like holding him hostage at this point does not. That if I'm a player in the league and I'm seeing this go down, I'm not trying to play for that team.
And again, like it was Ayuk's such a bad guy for leaving? Like, you already voided his contract. He came back to try to play. He wanted to play. You didn't want him to play. You didn't want to pay him, and you didn't want him to play. So what does he need to be there for? Humiliation? I don't get it. I'm with him. Unless, of course, he did something we don't know. Murray
Yeah.
Hamilton says, how much of a super chat do you have to buy so that Grant lowers his intro countdown to 5?
You
More than
probably need to buy
6.99,
a
Murray.
beginning of the show sponsorship for the last 5 seconds.
Yeah, that's right. Jermaine Pickett, member for 54 months, man. Thank you so much, Jermaine. Tom Cruise says, what y'all think they'll do with IU? Hold on to him forever. Casey Cole says the Niners might have the oldest offense of all time. 7 of their projected starters, if you include Juice, are 30 plus. 4 to 5 of their draft picks should be offense. Yeah, and it should be offensive line. It really could be anything besides quarterback. Bradley Brown says I would be petty and keep him all year. Okay, Bradley. Dre Dean says Jennings better than Mike Evans is a terrible take. Also, Mike Evans is objectively better than Ayuk has ever been. The guy is a Hall of Famer. You know who else is a Hall of Famer? Jerry Rice. You know who's not better than Juwan Jennings right now? Jerry Rice. You know what the thing about athletes is? They get old. And when they get old, they get worse. So again, we'll see if last year was an aberration or the end. We don't know. History suggests it was the beginning of the end.
This is not who's had a better career. The take that I had was 2023 Ayuk was clearly better than 2026 Evans. He was however you want to talk about it.
Njoku and Tutu Atwell are potential pickups. Man, Jacob Cowing might be Tutu Atwell, but we'll never find out because he doesn't get to play.
I don't think Njoku anymore, not with bringing back Tonjes. And that's not to be funny. That's just, you've got 3 tight ends now. I don't think so.
Yeah, you don't need him. You got Jake Tonjes. Gizmo Maltese says, hot take, healthy Niners are as good as Rams or Seahawks. People are underestimating the impact of the injuries in Ayuk last year.
No, they're not. On paper, they're not, especially the Rams on paper are by far the best team on paper, right? Obviously, games aren't played that way. But this is what I hear all the time. We appreciate you, Gizmo Maltese. But listen, man, everybody has to start with the asterisk of if healthy. They're not going to be healthy. The if healthy, everybody, you don't get a year older and all of a sudden get healthier. They haven't been if healthy for many years now. It's not going to happen.
Yeah, man, this team is resigned to being the most injured team every year. They don't even invest in their training staff. They're never going to change it. They practice next to a freaking, Dante Curry says, is being Super Bowl champions really important to the Niners considering they've seemed to embrace being high-level losers? I was just talking about this with my dad. I feel like you could argue that the Niners don't really care about Super Bowls anymore. Maybe the owners do, but they just want to have fun and be friends with each other and get into the playoffs and give it a good go and then go to Cabo. It really feels like they've found a way to find success without achieving the thing that you need to achieve to be successful. It's remarkable.
I get it. I get that it's really hard when you're in the moment and you're watching the team go to NFC championships or Super Bowls and lose, and it feels really successful. But I cannot get this thought out of my mind. And I said it a couple years ago, and I still think about it now. There was a halftime where they did a 10-year anniversary of that Harbaugh Niners team, and they brought everybody out at halftime when nobody's watching. They did a golf clap and they moved on. That's exactly what this team's going to get in 10 years' time. It's like, oh, cool, you didn't win the Super Bowl. It was fun while you were in it, but the reality is 10 years from now, we're going to go, while people are getting up to take a wet shit and eat their popcorn because they don't give a crap about the team. Like, that's just what it is.
Yeah, and their main memories of the team were painful. Not celebratory. All right, I got a couple more questions for Jesse, but before we do, we got one more sponsor who is graciously hooking us up this week, AG1, who's been making sure that I've been real healthy for the last few months. Come out of your winter slump and reset for the season ahead. Prioritizing your health doesn't have to be complicated and can make a meaningful difference in how you feel. Here are the benefits of AG1. 1, boom, energy. The superfoods and B vitamins in AG1 provide nutritional support to help you stay steady and consistent. Daily energy support to keep you moving through the spring. 2, immune health. Daily immune support that helps you stay at your best. Powered by antioxidants, probiotics, and functional mushrooms. I don't even know what that means. There's non-functional mushrooms. I do know about those. And the functional mushroom, those are the ones in here. Then you got gut health. AG1 Next Gen delivers 5 strains of clinically studied probiotics that have been shown to support digestion, immune function, and alleviate occasional bloating. I can just speak for myself that while I've been taking AG1, I've had no freaking bloating. None. And I have been kind of a bloaty person in the past, but not now. So I just want to say, go to drinkag1.com/cone to get an AG1 flavor sampler and a bottle of vitamin D3 and K2 for free in your AG1 welcome kit with your first AG1 subscription order, only while supplies last. That's drinkag1.com/cone. Did you know there was a vitamin K2? I didn't, but it's in here. And that's good. All right.
AG1's legit. I've heard
Oh, yeah.
I've heard AG1 is legit.
Everywhere.
So.
I had never really heard of it, and then they reached out, and I'm like, yeah, I like health, and it makes me feel a lot better first thing in the morning. And now when I go on in like the airports and stuff, it's everywhere. It's like, did you forget your AG1? Well, here's an AG1 vending machine. I'm like, yes, I did forget my AG1. Actually, no.
Is it one of those things though, like when you buy a new car, all of a sudden you start just hyper focusing in on that car? Maybe it's like they became your sponsor, so you just started hyper focusing in on AG1. It's always been all around you.
When I bought the Kia Stinger, I had never heard of a Kia Stinger until a dude on YouTube kind of sold me on them, and then I bought it, and then I just spot them like they're rare birds. I'm like, oh, yeah. me and you, buddy, me and you. Okay, all right, okay, so we haven't even mentioned the biggest move the Niners have made so far this offseason in free agency.
You're right.
Brett Toth. Or Toth. Or Toth. We're going to go with Toth. This guy started 4 games last year for the Eagles. He's played a little guard and center. Is this the heir apparent to Jake Brendel? Or is this the starting left guard? Or is he just not going to play? What do you know about the great Brett Toth?
Well, I hope he's not penciled in to be a starter. 29 years old. Now, here's what you do like about it. We know that the Eagles produce offensive linemen. That we do know. And there was no chance in the world with the interior offensive lineman that they had that he was ever going to get on the field unless there was injury. But there was injury, and he did play 4 games last year, and he was actually pretty good in those 4 games. So I think that you bring him in, he can compete for an interior spot, starting spot. Maybe you draft a rookie, competes against them. And I like his versatility that he can play. I believe he can play all 3 of those interior spots. So you need depth. You definitely need depth. But if this is like, hey, this is our left guard, I wouldn't be the biggest fan of it by any means. They certainly should try to do better. But as a depth piece, I don't mind it. I actually don't. I think it's a good little pickup.
Here's why I freaking mind it. It makes me nervous that they're not going to really address him and Verdarian Lowe. Like, don't tell me you're
Verdarian Lowe. Listen, that's the worst offensive line in football. One of the worst offensive lines in football, and he couldn't start on that worst offense. Like that. Yeah. That was an awful signing. I don't.
Yeah, he got beat out by a guy with literal T-Rex arms. Literal. So you brought and they could still sign. Does this mean they won't sign Ben Barch? Does that mean they're not signing Ben Barch? Because that would be great.
If that's the case, then yes, this is A++, right?
I mean, if you're going to go cheap on the offensive line, which is whatever, can you at least get a guy who could stay healthy, please? Because what is the point of spending a guy kind of, if you're only getting 6 games and 2 starts, and all of a sudden he's expensive and not helping? Ben, Mr. Barch.
I just, here's the thing. I love the signing. I love it as a depth piece. You're probably right. We're going to get an off season or a training camp where everybody under the sun is making Brett Toth videos and talking about how great he's going to be. And he's not going to be very good. That's the probability here.
It just seems like the Niners don't care. They're like, is he serviceable? Then he's perfect for us. It's like, okay. All right.
Is he a retread from a team and that he's been in the league for 7 years and probably was on some practice squads? Send him over.
It's like, it's great that you got Mike Evans, and it's cool that you're calling about Jordan Addison, but I thought you were a run first team, and you can't run the ball at all. And it's largely because of your offensive line and your running back position. And I'm sorry, but Brett Toth isn't going to unlock your running game, and you haven't added a running back when you certainly could have. So excuse me if I'm still a little skeptical that the next time you face Seattle, you're still gonna score freaking less than 10 points.
Yeah. Well, I will say in his limited starts last year, he was a hell of a lot better run blocker than a pass blocker. But to your point, I mean, this is if he's your starter, not ideal. At this point, 29 years old, bounced around the league a little bit. No. But as a depth piece, I like it. I do. You do need depth, and he's somebody you can trust if he needs to start a couple games. He just cannot be the start. Please don't make him the starter.
It's
like
true.
That can't be the plan.
Yeah, it's good to have depth. It's just incredible. It's like you ever saw that meme, like draft an offensive lineman or draw 25 cards. The Niners are the dude at the Uno table with 47 cards in their hand because we're not doing it. We're not doing it. Like he's almost 30, guys. It'd be so cool. You drafted Pooney. That was good. You drafted McKivitz. You love him. Even Burford kind of worked out at the end. Once in year 5, you figured out his best position. Just saying, man. Give it a shot. Run it up the flagpole.
I remember when I was like 17 and my car had broken down on the side of the road and we were towing it. So my dad comes to tow it. He's got like an old school rope. And so he's just like tying and tying and tying and tying. And I said, are you sure like the cars are going to hold together while we tow them? He goes, listen, son, if you don't know how to tie a knot, tie a lot. I feel like that's what the 49ers do with the offensive line. It's like, we don't know what the hell we're doing, but we're just going to get a lot of crappy guys and eventually it'll pan out. We'll just throw them up there. We'll just keep trying and trying. We're going to get a lot of them and they all suck, but one of them has to pan out. So that's
okay. Matt Hennessy sucks, but maybe Brett Toth doesn't.
Yes.
Okay, Brett.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Yeah.
Yeah. But
exactly.
there's more. All right. Last thing, and then we got to get out of here. The best news of the day. No one's mentioned this. The best news of the day, maybe of the year for the 49ers. They still haven't traded for Deebo Samuel. I want to give him a round of applause for showing restraint and wisdom. Matt Mayoko came out today and said it's not going to happen, which makes me feel like it's not going to happen. I feel like they were. I think they wanted to do it, and there was so much pushback from everyone that they're like, we can't. And they shouldn't. So good. I feel like we did something.
No, this is, the one thing that I will say is the 49ers organization absolutely does listen to the fans. So somebody there's got their ear to the street. We know that for a fact. I mean, that's how Mac Jones wasn't drafted at 3. That, there's a lot of little things that
was my fault. I'm sorry. Me and Jesse.
But no, honestly, listen, Mac Jones has been phenomenal.
But he wouldn't have been the right pick at 3 either.
No, you have to remember that Mac Jones coming out of college was extremely immature. And then he had to go through those Patriots years where he was kind of like scared straight and then corrected his career. He needed those years. And now I love Mac Jones, but
now he's just quirky.
He was not that
He's
guy.
not immature.
For sure. Yeah, he's quirky. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
He's McCorky. So listen, he like I feel like they listen, and Deebo Samuel not coming here sounds amazing. Matt Mayoko saying that does make it feel very real that it's not going to happen. And I was worried about it. I'm like, gosh, man, you cannot please Deebo Samuel of all people. Deebo had a few-year run where he was a lot of people's favorite 49er. Hell, he was my favorite 49er for a season or two. I'm not going to lie. But he's just not... He's not that guy anymore. And his skill set is just one where once it goes, it goes. He was not that great in Washington last year. Do not bring him back.
And he's younger than Mike Evans.
I know, but it completely different body type.
If you had to sign one of them, I would sign Mike Evans.
Yes. Oh, listen, as much as I disagree with the Mike Evans signing, I would rather sign Mike Evans than Jennings or Deebo personally.
Jennings is going to get too much money. I think he's going to get too much money. We'll see what Jennings actually gets.
Man. Listen,
I don't know.
I don't think he's ever going. I don't think he was ever going to break 20 a year. Like I don't see it happening. We'll see. But at this point, he's still out there. A lot of money's been spent. I don't know, man. I don't know that Jennings is going to get much more north of 15.
G-Dub Money says, after having such a good O-line in 2019, why did this regime get away from investing in the O-line? in 2019, they weren't spending a ton of freaking money on Trent Williams. It was kind of evenly dispersed. They had Joe Staley making a reasonable amount of money, Weston Richburg making a reasonable amount of money, and they could sort of spread the wealth. And the year after that, they decided to get Trent Williams and to put all their eggs into that basket. And ever since then, I feel like their strategy for building the offensive line has been to be as cheap as possible everywhere else. Literally as cheap as possible everywhere else.
Yeah, I mean, Kyle Shanahan like 4 years ago said that the center position is the heartbeat of his offense, and then he's just continually gotten
He
worse
loves
at
Jake
that
Brendel.
position. I don't understand it.
UCLA.
Yeah, your guy. That's your guy.
Nick H says if hopefully not Niners, who signs Debo? Who cares?
No, I don't think so.
Not the Raiders. Michael Clark says, look at Evans' win rate against press man coverage.
I don't know if it's good or bad, but press man coverage is played so little. I don't know that it matters.
That is really true. Thank you, Michael Clark. Thank you, everyone, for watching. Thank you, Jesse, for coming on for a very special free agent
For sure.
stream, man. It's always great to stream with you, dude. You're looking great.
Yeah, absolutely.
Even
We'll
the
have to
hair.
do one more in April around the draft. So we'll
love
get
to.
it together. Listen,
I'd love
49ers
to.
After Dark may not be a weekly thing, but we still do it
It's
from time
there
to
when you
time,
need
and
it.
it's
Kind of
it's
like
there when you
Batman.
need it. Yeah.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah.
We're like
It's the Batman,
the Batman of streams. Great.
Yeah, it is. Thanks for watching, guys. Take care.